So unleashing productivity with Microsoft Loop and Copilot. I chose this name, the reason because you can really unleash the productivity using these tools together. And I'll also show the best practices and tips that we can use. What we will learn today. We will learn about Microsoft Loop, its key components, how we can leverage this great tool in project management, and also how we can use Microsoft 365 Copilot in Loop. And we will also do demo. If you want, you can follow along, and all the session details and including presentation will be shared with you. And again, at the end, we will have Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. At the end of this session, you will have learned what's Microsoft Loop and what are the key components of Microsoft Loop, how you can navigate the interface, because it's a modern tool and there is a little bit learning curve. And then how we can integrate Loop in our workflows, especially in project management, leveraging Copilot in Loop. And this is gonna be a little even deeper because we will also learn how Microsoft 365 Copilot works, like leveraging large language models, how we can use prompts and so on, and implementing best practices. I'm Ravsan Husseinov. I'm Senior IT Program Manager overseeing large programs dedicated for enterprise architecture, mostly like technology. I'm also a solution architect for Power Platform, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and so on. I'm Microsoft MVP. I shoot videos about the productivity. Everything is free. It's on my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and subscribe and watch the videos. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. All right, let me go ahead and start with a quick intro video. Let me know if you can hear the sound, please.
Say goodbye to the frustration of jumping between apps and losing track of documents and ideas. Microsoft Loop transforms the way you work, so you can think, plan, and create together like never before. Loop is made up of workspaces, pages, and components. Let's break it down. Create together with shared workspaces for each of your projects. On the Loop homepage, you can access all your existing workspaces and create new ones. In a Loop workspace, you can bring everything you need for your project together in one place. To kick off a workspace, Loop can even do the searching for you, making it easy to add existing project-related information and organize it into pages. Continue adding to your workspace as your project evolves and organize it the way you want. Loop pages are flexible canvases where you can react, comment, and build on each other's ideas. Notifications help you track the things you care about and focus on what matters, all while staying in the flow of your work. Copilot in Loop helps you ideate and co-create. Get inspired with AI-powered contextual suggestions to transform the way you create together. Don't let app barriers slow your project down. Easily share information with people outside your workspace with Loop components. Components are portable pieces of content that stay in sync across all the places they have been shared, no matter where they are updated. You can share components and create new ones, like lists, tables, paragraphs, and more, across your favorite Microsoft 365 apps. You're always in control because it's easy to see where components were shared and who has access. However you work, wherever you work, Loop enables teams to think, plan, and create together like never before.
Awesome. It's really sync and create together. Let's go ahead and deep dive. So Microsoft Loop, it's in sense a collaboration app. A collaboration app, imagine in your project, brings everything together. That means you can bring your team members, you can bring your project files, you can bring brainstorming sessions, you can bring task tracking into single hub. And that's the Loop application. It's a modern tool, it's a new tool. And every week or every month, I see Microsoft keep adding new features. And I've been using this almost a year. And yeah, this is my go-to tool every single day. And basically loop made up of three main components. The first one here I highlighted is the loop workspace. So think of loop workspace a measure like SharePoint site. So typically when you start a project, you would create a Teams channel or Teams group in SharePoint and Teams. And there you would invite your team members so that you can create different folders and bring every relevant project documentation there. So that's the purpose of Loop Workspace. And you can see I highlighted the entire workspace here is the Loop Workspace. And the name here, you can see that's the Loop Workspace. The second component called Loop Pages. And you see, now imagine we have a SharePoint site and we have a document library. And in the document library, we have different loop pages. And loop pages are very similar to different folders. And you can see here, I have one folder called Project Planning, and I have also a subfolder called Project Brief. In loop terminology, we call this loop pages and loop subpages. So loop pages are flexible canvases. You can add as much as information you want, and this can be in a form of table, in a form of paragraph. You can even bring Microsoft Stream videos, and I'll show you in a bit. It's really great. And this is one of the most important part called loop components. This is a piece of content that sync whatever you share. So you can create loop component in Teams, in Outlook, or loop application, and whatever you share, people can directly update them there, and then you get the latest updates. So we will practice this today. So in a nutshell, these are the three most important components of loop application. So what makes Loop really great collaboration tool is basically its native integration with other Microsoft tools. That includes Teams, OneNote, Planner, To-Do, Whiteboard, Outlook, and there are some other third-party tools, for example, Jira, Trello, etc. And I'm hoping to see actually more integration in the future. For example, Azure boards, absolutely, that could be my favorite. Integration with Miro and other tools. So, but as of now, there are capabilities related. These integrations are more related to Microsoft. So if you have a question, okay, got it, this is really a great tool, but how can I leverage this in project management? So I think they don't necessarily mention, Microsoft doesn't necessarily mention this is for project management, but I think there are much more use cases in project management to use Loop. And the first one is project and task management. As I said, when you kick off your project, you can create one single workspace for project. Now, you can create different Loop pages, like one for project planning, one for project execution, one for project initiation. And under each Loop page, now you can create different sub-pages. For example, one for communication planning, one for change management planning, and so on. And you can also create this simple progress tracker in a table format and start assigning the tasks. So I want to be very clear here. That doesn't mean that this is going to replace any comprehensive project management tool. No, I don't think that that's the case here. But for lightweight project task management, this is really great. Team collaboration and brainstorming. So many times I still see people using Microsoft Excel for brainstorming and collaboration, and that makes me sad because Excel is not collaboration tool. So instead, you can use different templates in Microsoft Loop to collaborate, gather ideas, and then right after create the action items. And today we will do it. We will basically open Whiteboard and start collaborating, and then use Microsoft Loop to bring it there so everyone can see like summary, categorize information, and so on. And note taking, that's another great benefit. I mean, in project management, we take a lot of notes, right? So instead of multitasking, now in Teams, there is a direct integration with Loop. We can use collaborative meeting notes component to gather the inputs and paste it there, and then start integrating with the Loop application. All right, it's demo time. I'm gonna show you how you can get access to Microsoft Loop and how we can create different Loop workspaces, pages, and components. And then I will come back here one more time so that we can get information about Microsoft 365 Copilot, and then another demo for how we can use in Loop. So I'll stop this, and first I need to go to show the access. To get access to Microsoft Loop, if you have Work School account, that's perfect. That way you can get the most out of Microsoft Loop. And that means that Work and School accounts, first you need to have one of these Microsoft 365 plans. That can be business standard, that can be business premium, E3, E5, and so on. So having these plans, any of these plans will enable you to create new Loop workspaces, add members to that specific Loop workspace, and also remove those members from the Loop workspaces. If you have other Microsoft 365 plans, for example, Office 365 or A5, A3, they don't have all the capabilities, for example, creating workspaces and so on. So this is for work or school accounts. But if you have a question, hey, I don't have any of them, or I have a work account, but we don't use Loop, or we are not allowed to use for some reason, IT can turn it off, right? So if you have personal Microsoft account, like it's free, go ahead and create Outlook account, and then you can sign in Loop using that account, and you can start creating the Loop workspaces. You have really great capabilities there, but some capabilities are not there. For example, attaching the files from your desktop and so on. So it's right now you can do that. I don't know how long it will be free, but yes, that's the case now. You can use it. So now, let's say we have this any of these licenses. We have access to Planner, access to Loop. How we can get access to? There are two ways. If you come here to Microsoft 365, you can see here. Just come to Microsoft365.com and click Apps. You might be in the home when you click that, but click Apps. If you are in the apps, you might say, hey, I don't see all the apps. Don't worry, just click all apps and look for the Loop. Okay, perfect, it's right here. You can click and this will take you to Loop application. Or you can simply come here, click loop.cloud.microsoft. That is going to take you to Loop application. So first time when you log in, you might have just one workspace if it's the first time, but this is the overall UI. When you log in, you will see a bunch of workspaces, of course, if you have created them. As I explained in the presentation, let's take a look at one of my workspaces. Let's treat one of these as if it's my project, M365 Copilot overview. I will click this. Perfect. As you can see, this is my workspace. And here I have a bunch of Loop pages. By the way, I can also extend this to see other workspaces here as well. I'm going to close this. And let's look at one of them. I can also close this if I want and click to open it again. Here, this is like Microsoft 365 Copilot. I organize this page so that I can easily navigate, like overview, presentation. Like this is table of contents. Like if I click presentation, this will take me to presentation. If I extend, you can see, okay, this is the sum of the material that I took it from Microsoft website, explaining a Copilot architecture, Microsoft Graph, and so on. Beneath that, I have resources. You can see this is just the web links I attached here. If I want, I can click and this will take me to the direct website. And another thing here, as I said, you can copy and paste like YouTube videos or your Microsoft Stream videos. And it's right here. If I click, it will play. And I can also see other pages as well. If I go to, like, let's say Copilot in Excel, the same thing. I have all these capabilities. typically you would create like different folders, but I don't need that. I don't want to go to like SharePoint folders, open different files. Now you see how easy it is to navigate. And I can create tables. Same thing, I can go to Copilot for Word, the same thing here. I just nicely organize my files, and I can close this. And if I want, I can go to other projects, right? And here, let's start with some hypothetical project and start creating our workspace. To create a workspace, let's come here. It will say create new. And from here, you can have pages and ideas. This is just the idea. And then click new workspace. So I'm gonna, let's call this PMI Lake Shore Student Club project. Perfect. I can invite my team members right away, but what I do typically, I create the workspace first, add some key information, and then bring my team so that when they start, they can see the information. If I click continue, so when you name your workspace, any relevant document that related to that name or title, the AI will bring it here. You can choose and add it here. So you can add the description workspace and click create. Perfect. The first time you create, you see here, it creates a default page. There is no information. But one thing that I really like about this tool, you don't have to start from scratch. For example, from the project management perspective, let's see. Okay, I see one question. Is it similar to Notion and Confluence? Yes, it's very similar to Notion. So here, for example, I can start from scratch, or I can come here and click use a loop template. By the way, if you don't have Copilot license, your view can be different, especially in the bottom part. I will use a loop template. So there are multiple templates here. You can see if I scroll up and down, we're talking about project planning, right? So let's select project planning. And here you can review the details. Perfect, like opportunity statement, assignments, goals, everything. And if you're happy with the template, click use this template. So everything here. Now all I need, just start customizing it. So when I start projects typically, first thing is like project charter, right? Why we are doing this? What's the business case? What's the opportunity statement? What's in scope? What's in out of scope? What are the key milestones? What are the key team members? So that's the time that we can go ahead and start customizing. Here we have template already, roles, assignees, we can update it. You know what? I want to change the order. I can easily select, drag, and drop. It's no code. And besides roles, I'm also interested in the responsibilities. I can add another column and call this responsibilities. Perfect. For example, I can choose one of my team members. So if you haven't invited your team members into your workspace, if you tag them, this will add them, but they will not receive a notification until you click and give them access. This will share the workspace or loop page and notify them. Right now, this is sharing actually the loop page. If you want to share the entire workspace, and you can invite here. And I will also explain the sharing here. For project team, I definitely recommend bringing all team members, sharing your workspace. But for different teams, you don't have to share your entire workspace, because giving access to your workspace, that means that they can edit, update, delete the page. But if you give access to certain pages, then they can have different accesses for that specific page. Perfect. I can say Zuka is the project manager. And responsibility, we can say successful delivery of the project. Perfect. So you can see I'm just nicely adding information. I can extend my table. I can, if I want also, I can easily export this information to Excel. And all you need, just select the table, these dots, and click export to Excel. And then this will create a nice Excel table so that you can share with others. It's right here. You can see. Perfect. So I'll come back here again. So same thing, background context. You can go ahead and populate this, opportunity statement, assignments, goals, milestones, and so on. So these are default template components, but you can actually customize them. If you don't need this, you can easily select and delete. And anytime you want to add another information, like another component, click /, or you can click plus. And these are the all great component that you can choose. You can choose, for example, numbered list, bullet list, checklist. If you work in the Power Apps or other software development, you can even have page for code. You can have mermaid. I'll show you this is really fantastic component here. You can also bring other applications here. Let's do that. Now, under project planning, I can add new subpage, and I will call this planner. So I assume most of the project managers, they use Microsoft Planner. It's a lightweight tool to manage the project tasks. So here, if I click /, I can come here and select planner, then select one of my plans and click insert. So you can see I just brought entire planner board here. So this is not static. This is actually dynamic. If I add anything here, this will automatically update my plan. To see that, let me take you to planner. Same way, I'm going to come here. So let me find planner. Okay, perfect. They changed the logo. So you can see it here, right? And let's come back here. I would like to add another task saying Copilot practice. Set due date, for example, tomorrow, assignee, Rafsan, and add task. I just added here, right? If I come back here, let's refresh this. The same task is here. So the same way, I can just add the tasks here, and this will appear here. So now if you have a question, hey, Rafsan, why I need to use Planner in Loop? Why I don't use just Planner itself? That's correct, but I don't like switching apps. That's the benefit of Microsoft Loop. You can bring everything into one workspace and then start collaborating there. But if you don't want like Planner, there's actually a couple of other options here. Again, this is for lightweight projects. If I click this, I can add another subpage. I really like this template. Click /, and one of them called Progress Tracker. This is a nice table. And what makes it unique, it's by default, and we can change it to Kanban. Let's say work area. Again, you can easily come, add or change the order of the columns, add new records. So for example, back end design, owner, I'll assign myself, status in progress, and date. So as you can see, this is already populated. But one thing I really like here, you don't want this, you can change table format view to board. Now it's in the Kanban. So this way, it's the same thing. Like I can select the cards, drag and drop in different areas. This is by status, but if you add other conditional fields, you can easily select, for example, now it's by status, it can be category, etc. So another thing here, we can have filters, we can add filter. Also, we can add some Power Automate like automations here. For example, I can add a rule here saying when status becomes or equals, let's say completed, then automate like do what? Like in automation, you would have basically trigger, something that trigger event, for example, in this case, status equals to completed, then do this like action. Action here, I'm saying, send a message on chat. Click continue. As you can see, this is like there is no coding, nothing involved here. It's a native connection. All I need, just choose the connector, click next, set up your flow. I can just add myself, and create flow. Perfect. This is one flow just I did. I can add another task, for example, front end design. I can say this to me. I can add in progress, then by tomorrow, and so on. So right, so this is right now in progress. If I select and make this completed, now let's come back to my Teams. Let's wait a second. Perfect. It just triggered automation saying that this is completed, by whom, and so on. So this is a great capability, and I use a lot. And also, another thing we can do it here, I can actually create a loop component. Remember, I mentioned that loop components are basically a piece of content that sync the progress wherever you share. Now that I created this, I can copy this, come back to my Teams, and go to my colleague, and then paste this. So this is like a perfect way, and I can just start adding tasks here, for example. Perfect. Now I just added this information here. If I go back to loop application, as you can see, this is here. The same way, like we can share this in Outlook, we can share this in OneNote. Wherever people update, it syncs their progress. Also directly start from the templates. Here is the link. If you follow along, you can actually go ahead and select any of these templates. You can see different templates here. You can take a look. It kind of gives you overview. If you want, you can customize in loop. So let me go ahead and continue with the integrations. So the same way, if you want to bring other tools here, as I mentioned, I can add as much as information I want in my loop page, right? But first thing we need to do, for example, always name your loop page so that you can easily find them. Task tracking. I also like using icons, like depends on your idea, depends on your use case. Just add a nice icons, and that way you can differentiate different loop pages. And if you want, you can even also add different background image here as well. So perfect. So now let's talk about the sharing loop. So there are different ways that you can share. If you want to share the workspace, you can click and you can invite team members. And you can also copy the link and share people. But keep that in mind. If you share your workplace with others, everyone in that specific workspace will be able to delete the information, update the information. So just be mindful. Unless they're project team members, I wouldn't recommend adding everyone into your workspace. Just give them access to the specific loop page. And here, to do that, come to page link and settings. And you can give, for example, access to people you choose. And then you can also change the settings. For example, in one of the things that I did in my company, we had a massive software that we built internally and we rolled out, and we had a lot of trainings, basically like weeks of like recordings. So I created one loop page, organized all the trainings there, and shared with the entire organization, and then changed the access to view. So people can only view and click and see the information, but they won't be able to update or delete the information. So this is the way. If you want to share certain pages with people, just come here, choose, and change whether you want view access or edit access, and then click apply, and you can share the link. Also, sometimes you don't want to share the entire loop page. That's fine. So that you can actually create a loop component and copy the component and share with others. That means that even though you might have like tons of information in one loop page, but people will only see this specific component, nothing outside of this component. So sharing is very important. And if you have a question, hey, this looks great tool, can I share this externally? Depends. So to share this externally, you need to invite those people to your Azure directory or Microsoft Entra. You basically give guest access to your tenant, and then you can share this with them. But you can randomly, for example, select people's emails outside of your organization and share this. So that's the way that you can share. And yeah, so here, if you want to add, you can also add people. And in the status tab here is really great. Right now, we don't have any information, but when you add more information like tasks with the status columns, they will pop up here showing that, okay, this is the number of tasks that are due and assigned to these people. Perfect. This is the loop application itself. But as I mentioned, let's talk about integrations. I am in Microsoft Whiteboard. Let me actually come here. Let's say we have a nice risk planning session and people put the risk items there. First of all, I will just go ahead and start using Copilot here. I'll just click Copilot. There is a nice action item here. It's called Categorize. Click Categorize. Perfect. Now it categorizes our risks based on like whether they are resource constraints, operational issues, dependency management, and so on. So perfect. I will click Keep It. Then one thing here, if you come and click these three dots, you have loop components here. So you don't have to always go to loop application to create loop components. Now you can actually create loop components in Teams, Outlook, Whiteboard, and so on. If you click here, you will see these options. So you might say, hey, I actually don't need them. And I'll show you the trick here. For example, just let's add a task list here. I will paste it here. And now, like loop options, right? But we know loop has many components. Inside that specific loop component, if you click /, now you can see you got these all of the options here. So this is really great. That if you want, you can bring everything here. But another action here, actually, if you click Copilot, if you click Summarize, perfect. This basically, at the end of the day, after your workshop, you can click Summarize, and this will summarize your workshop in a loop component format, and you can keep it. Now we are not done here. If I copy this, I can come back here. You remember we were talking about project planning now, but let's say here, you remember I copied this, if I paste it here, so all the brainstorming we did, now it's inside this page, and I can call this risk planning. We can gather our risk planning information right here. So how many participants, the dates, ideas, key progress items, everything here. And now I have some issues I can open, but if you click, it opens in the Microsoft Loop. So you can actually start maybe adding new sticky notes, maybe moving around, maybe deleting some of them, maybe getting more information. You can do that right inside the loop. So this is about loop integration. But if I come to Outlook now, let's go to Outlook and click here. If you go to Insert, you will have loop components here as well. And from here, you can choose. Typically, I use this for data gathering. Instead of creating Excel files, sending, hey, please add this information. Let's say we have event, how many people will sign up? So instead, I come here and add, for example, numbered list, or we can add task list, voting list, anything you want, but needs to be one of them. If I click here, so you can see I can dynamically add information. Same thing, if you don't see all the components here, the trick here is add a component, then start clicking this and start adding this information. For example, you might have a code to share with others. You can just add this and start populating this. You can actually collapse line code and choose the text code that you are sharing with people. So when you share, they will get the loop components and they can start adding information dynamically, and you will get the latest updates. Same way, if you come to OneNote, if you click anywhere in the canvas, so let's go to Insert, same thing here, loop components, you can start adding any components here, for example, and add information, and then you can copy this, share with others. Even though you share them in Teams, in Outlook, when the people update information, you are getting the answers here dynamically. You don't have to download anything or ask people, hey, have you updated, or so on. So you can easily add information here and start tagging your colleagues. Please add your ideas here. Click share and notify, and that way they will be notified and they can start working on this. Perfect. And let's come back to Teams. So in Teams, it's always good practice whenever you share the calendar invite, we will need to provide the agenda so people can understand what it's required from them. project kickoff. Yes, yes, super cool functionality, and I'm actually going to show that. I think that's one of my favorites. So before scheduling a meeting, let's add some project kickoff. Perfect. I'm going to send this. And we have scheduled that, right? Let's say we have scheduled 2 weeks from now. I can come back here. I have more information. I can actually, you know what? I can add more information. Let me come here. Let me take any of these pages. I'll copy this, come back to Teams, paste it here. So you can see like the same idea. It's a flexible canvases. And if you think, hey, I don't have enough room here, just click here. Now you open it in a Loop application and you can add as much as information you want. And you know what? Before meeting, you can actually assign tasks saying that project charter ready, assign tasks, due date, and to do. So as you can see, we have one page, but we can add as much as information we want. You see like all these different components is here. But let's say we just joined the call. Hope this will work because we are right now in the call with using Zoom. So if I click Zoom, join, now in Teams, look at here, this tab, that's Microsoft Loop. You remember we added the agenda, everything is here. Now we can gather like meeting notes, and if you have Copilot, let the Copilot takes the notes, and you can start adding this information. And you can add as much as information you want. And the same way, you can open this in browser like larger version. But let's say, hey, I'm done with the meeting, right? So if I leave this meeting, if I go back to the Loop application, there is this tab here called Loop Meeting Notes. If I click, you remember we just scheduled the call and added the agenda? Everything is right here. The same agenda, the meeting notes, even the meeting link. And if you actually record the meeting, the recording will be here too. And sometimes you gather so many information. Now, instead of sending them notes, you can actually send this page link. And you might say, hey, you know what? I think we had tons of information here. Let's add this into our existing workspace, right? So I can just simply come here, click add to workspace. You can choose workspace from here. So for example, I'll go ahead and add this to this specific workspace. Perfect. And if you want, you can even create a new one. Now let's go to PMI lecture chapter student club. That meeting is right here. You know what? I can actually create meeting notes here. I will add a nice notes here. Then what I will do, I will select this and bring it here. So this way we capture the information. As always, name your loop components so that you can easily find them, because to find them, you can come here and look for project kickoff. You will be able to find them here. Or if you come to, let's find OneDrive. Okay. If you come here, project kickoff, so you see loop pages are same like Excel, same like Word. So you can come here and look for them, and the file extension is .loop. And if you want, you can open this in browser, in loop, and so on. So I think, as I said, I really like that. Can we publish a loop on the website like a resume or like Adobe Portfolio? I showed you the option here. You can make it static, like print it as a PDF file. So maybe you can create a nice resume, then basically attach it wherever you want. This is basically a PDF file once you convert this to PDF. So here it is, you can see. Right now, we don't have any content, but if you want, you can add that. So let's click cancel. But in Teams, this is really great feature. I use it, but besides that, if I come here, there is also loop here. If you come here, you see this is the loop components. Now you can start adding loop components here. For example, I can choose task list, or if you are working on a communication, you can create a communication and click send, and this way people can start collaborating. So again, this is really great. Now let's see, we have some time. I really want to talk about Copilot. There is a lot to do with Loop, but let's also talk about Copilot, how AI makes our life easier. So let me bring you back to the Copilot. All right. One thing I want to highlight here, there are many, many Copilots in Microsoft ecosystem. There is Copilot in Bing, there is Copilot in your personal, for example, one that you can go to copilot.com and use like ChatGPT. But the specific Copilot that I'm talking here called Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is not free. To have this, you need to have one of the Microsoft 365 business or enterprise licenses plans. Plus, you also need paid Microsoft 365 Copilot. So your IT admin gives you access, and once you have access, it's probably one of the best AI services. The reason, let's say you work with ChatGPT, you need to always provide context. You always need to, give some goals. I mean, you need to give goals anyway, but it doesn't have access to your data because it leverages a large language model, and large language model, they are trained on completely different data set. They don't have any idea about your data set. But M365 Copilot uses Microsoft Graph and has access to your files, teams, chats, everything. So that means that whenever you ask something, and I will show it to you, it has access. It leverages the large language models. It connects your data using Microsoft Graph. You can get access to that in Word, in Excel, and same way Microsoft Loop, I will show it to you. And also you can bring information from the web. So also how it works, how the architecture works. So you've been already using ChatGPT and other tools. The same way, when the users open the Copilot, that can be in Loop, that can be in Word, and so on, you basically interact with natural language, right? So you provide your prompt, it takes that prompt, and then start grounding. And grounding means that it's not generating you some random stuff. Since you highlight keywords in your prompt, it says, okay, Rafsan is looking for this specific information. Where can I find that information? Looks like there is mention of that specific information Outlook. Hey, I'm going to bring that information from Outlook. Hey, there is also information mentioned in the Teams meeting last week. I'm going to bring information there. That's the grounding using Microsoft Graph. And once it takes that information, it sends that information to large language model for generative answer. Once the LLM, in short, process that, it sends back to Microsoft Graph again for post-processing. Post-processing means that it needs to make sure that the information it created, it refers to Rafsan's information files. If Rafsan doesn't have access to specific files, for example, we work in the same organization, if I don't have access to Mark's files, it's not going to generate information. And that's why it does the post-processing. And it also makes sure that it part of post-processing, it does the responsible AI. Like there is no like bad words or something like wrong use of AI. Once this is done, then step 5, it sends back to the outcome to the user. So that's how you get the information. So this is overall how Copilot for M365 works. Now, what we can do with Copilot in Microsoft. So we can, what can we do with Copilot in Loop? We can create loop pegs, we can create components, we can summarize text, we can edit tables, we can drop content, review content, and so on. It's really great. And so far, what we have done, we've been creating everything manually. Here, I will add this page. For example, in project management, we need to create user stories, or we need to create multiple project artifacts, right? Instead of starting from scratch, I can come here and say the user story page for Power Apps project. I want a loop table component for user stories. If I click hit, perfect. Now it just started this. Like imagine, like you can see the efficiency gains here. We don't have to manually create this. It nicely put the title on top, user stories, loop table component. I can give more information and it will even make it better and better. But if we look at here, by the way, I haven't done it. If I'm done, I can just, if I'm done with this, I can just click exit. And since I mentioned that, hey, I want user stories in a table format, it created in a table format. And then here, if you look at how to use the loop table component, define user stories, set priorities, it created everything I needed. On the other hand, I can still come here. If you hover over, there is a loop here, and I can rewrite. I can say, make it specific, saying Power Apps project user stories. Of course, you can manually do that, but let's say you have a large chunk of text. So instead of doing that, you can see it just immediately updated. I think we have some time left for questions. I would like to show you other information here. So the conclusion, Loop is really a powerful application you can use in project management. And it basically provides a single platform for your projects. You can bring your teams, you can start brainstorming, you can also do version controls there, and I will show you it in a second. And use Copilot to make your life easier, because AI is everywhere now, and let's leverage the capabilities that it's there. And one thing I want to make sure I provide information. So if you accidentally delete something, let me show you. If I, for example, delete this component, delete this page, delete. So you can come back to recycle bin, and you can easily restore it. Perfect. And now you can see it's back. But if you delete loop workspaces, you won't be able to bring it back by yourself. So you need to contact your IT admin. They can restore it. It's little time consuming, but try to don't delete your workspaces. But if you delete, your IT admin can restore it, as well as loop storage, where they are stored. Essentially, anything you create in loop applications, they are stored in SharePoint embedded. That's the new tool. Anything you create in Teams channel and Teams channel meeting, they are shared in SharePoint. They are stored in SharePoint site. Anything you create in Teams private chat, Outlook email, OneNote, Whiteboard, they are shared in your OneDrive. So let's open the conversation to questions. Any questions?
Son, I have one here in the chat, and it says that if we have personal Office 365 license, do we get Copilot by subscription?
No, that's different. So if you have personal or family Microsoft 365, you can get Copilot Pro license, but that's not same as Microsoft 365 Copilot. So you can use that Copilot Pro in Word, in Excel, but that's not going to be in Loop. So in order to have M365 in Loop, the Copilot in Loop, you need to have, first of all, one of Microsoft 365 Enterprise or Business plans, plus paid M365 Copilot license. And that is, I think, should be here. Okay, that one. So this is the plan. So you need to have business plan or enterprise. Then on top of that, this is the license. Basically, $20 for Copilot and $10 for Microsoft Graph, because it gets access to your files. Okay, can you share once again how you copied the component in Teams from Loop? Yeah, perfect. So let's say I am in the Loop application. I am here. So right now, I can share this information. I can just share the page. First, we need to make this a Loop component. I can select this and make it a Loop component. Once you are done, you see that it says copy component. You can click that. Then come back to Teams and then share it here. By the way, you can also share this information in Outlook as well. So you can share this in OneNote.
Thank you so much, Robson. There's a comment in chat, though. It says that from Mark, it says, Robson, thank you for a very interesting demo. I will definitely experiment with it here. And then there's another question which says, can we take this to MS Project?
Not. No. You can integrate with Microsoft Planner, but as of now, you can't integrate with Microsoft Project.
How about Trello?
Yes, that's Trello is here actually. So if you come here, so let me add a new page. Again, you don't have to add a new page, but if you come here, these are the current options. This can be Planner, GitHub, Jira, Trello. For Trello, I don't have Trello account, but I will show you something. I hope I have something in Jira. So if you have a Jira board, yes, you can bring that. Let me do Jira. Proceed. This is basically using Microsoft Power Platform connectors to access to your Jira. I don't think I have anything, but the same way, if you have Jira board with issues, you can just connect how we did it for Planner, same thing here. The Jira board will be embedded here, and you can manage certain things. For example, adding new issues, changing the dates, or changing the statuses. So this can be managed from Loop. But for more details, of course, you need to open and go to Jira itself. But yes, as I said, any of the connections here, if you come here, GitHub, Planner, Jira, Trello, these are the currently supported integrations.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rafsan. I don't think there are any more questions left in the chat, although there's a comment from Dipanshu, and he says that there's no questions, but the session was great, and thank you for your valuable insights.
I appreciate that.
I enjoyed it thoroughly as well, and I can't wait to explore more on this tool. And for sure, I know that we can get back if you have any questions. So
Absolutely.